Have you heard of FIRE? It stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. Today, I'm going to talk about how you can use the basic principles of the FIRE movement to help you buy your first business.
I'm David C. Barnett, and you're tuned in to Small Business and Deal Making, the podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where I talk about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium sized businesses while controlling risk. So, if you're looking to take control of your future through buying a business one day, or if you already own a business and you're looking to grow or exit, you've come to the right place. I talk about interesting things, I talk to interesting people, and I answer your questions every week right here. So, be sure to hit like and be sure to hit subscribe, and let's get to it. Are you thinking of growing your business or beginning a journey into entrepreneurship? Take a shortcut to success by buying an existing and profitable business the right way. Visit businessbuyeradvantage.com and learn more about my online training, group coaching, and consulting services designed to help you win.
So, back in March, I was invited to come to Cincinnati and give a talk at the EconoMe conference. Yeah, I have the t shirt. And it was a lot of fun. And I was there for the whole weekend and I met a lot of other interesting people and got to chat with people who were on their fire journey. People there will often say, where they are with respect to their FI number. They'll talk about their savings rates. Like it's really interesting because everybody there is all kind of like keyed into the same conversation with the same set of terms. And, it's very much like the SMB small business buyer community having their own kind of little language, lots of terminology that people use. And so it was interesting because there are all kinds of really great common sense money ideas that are happening in the fire community that can work really well to help people if they're trying to buy their first business. And that's what I want to make today's video about is about what small business acquirers can learn from people that are on the fire journey. And I also learned that there's a huge overlap between the two communities because my talk was about how fire people could take advantage of their wealth in doing a business acquisition. And when I asked for a show of hands, there was a huge number of people there who, in fact, already own their own business. And so I know this overlap is there. My presentation is going to be released publicly on YouTube. And when it is, I'll be sure to share it with all of you. I'll probably put a pinned comment down below this video when it comes out. And if you're on my email list, I will certainly let you know that it's coming out there. So, what is FIRE? Basically, this financial independence retire early movement has a couple of core principles. And these are number one, living below your means. So you're trying to reduce your expenses so that you can have some degree of savings, which become investable assets, right? So you want to save aggressively. I met people who proudly told me they're saving 50, 60, even as high as 70% of their income. Right. So very, very, very serious about making sure that they do not spend money they do not have to. And for example, during the lunch break at the conference, there was no catering. There were lots of restaurants around where we held everything. It was all at the University of Cincinnati. So lots of restaurants in the neighboring streets. But I was kind of surprised, like a good chunk of the people that came there for the day, when it was lunchtime, they went off somewhere and found a place to sit and they ate the lunch that they brought because they're serious about reducing their spending. Okay. They then take these savings, of course, and they invest them, and they build a nest egg, and they want to live off the investment proceeds, whether it's capital gains or dividend income or whatever it is, right? And so they really make this one big decision. They decide to prioritize freedom over lifestyle inflation. I saw no Lamborghinis, like nobody pulled up to the fire conference in a Lambo. And at one point, at the very last day, I was speaking with some gentlemen who, were on their way to sort of the closing party, which was at a microbrewery. And I was offered a ride. And true to form, it was like the gentleman had like a 2012 Tacoma or something, right? So low cost vehicle that lasts a long time. It's got that great reputation. And so I got a lift down there in his car. Thank you very much. And so what is then how are we able to then bring this into the world of business buyers? Well, what is the number one problem that business buyers seem to have? According to the conversations that happen in the comments on my YouTube channel and amongst the people that I actually speak with, it's that they don't have the capital. right? And this is why, those creators out there are doing so much of this buy a business with no money nonsense. And people are actually selling, courses on how to buy a business with no money. It's because there's these broke people out here trying to buy businesses instead of focusing on the actual problem at hand, which is get your hands on some money, right? And so they say it's hard. It's hard to save money. I have all these obligations. I have these debts, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe it makes sense to take a little detour from business buying into the world of fire to get your personal finances under control and to actually get some money that you can use, because if you're going to buy a business, it's not just the down payment, it's all the other stuff too. It's working capital that you may have to inject into your business, if you do an asset sale, for example. It's due diligence costs that you may have to pay whether or not you actually even do the deal. It's legal and advisory fees that you will have to pay that you may not be able to punt off, to be paid by your new business once you take over. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why you're going to need to have cash if you're going to buy a business. And here's the biggest one: you don't want to put your last nickel into a deal, right? Because if you put your very last dollar into doing an acquisition and something happens 3 or 4 months down the road, you're going to need cash. You're going to want cash. Cash gives you flexibility. So, in addition to the money that you need to do a deal that you foresee, it's also incredibly valued to have other money too, right? That basically, the more money you have when you get into the business acquisition game, the better off you're going to be, the more choices you're going to have, and ultimately the less risky it's going to be, because money gives options. That's what it does. Money buys options, you know, as simple as I can put it. So, how are these fire principles going to be able to help you with acquisition capital? So, in the world of fire, people set a phi number. It's the number that they think, the amount of investment capital they need in order to then become passively living off of the proceeds of that money. So instead of setting a phi number, you can set yourself an acquisition target number, right? So I want to buy a business. I think it's going to be a business like this. I will likely need X number of dollars. There you go. There's your acquisition target, right? Now you can apply everything that we're going to talk about towards that number of what you think you need as far as accumulating capital to do a deal. Then, same as the fire people, cut your expenses, attack debt, eliminate debt first, and redirect cash into savings and investments. Now, here's my twist. Um, People that are doing fire are typically long planning horizon folks. So someone might be 30 years old and they might realistically realize that they're only going to hit their fine number in their mid to late 40s. And so that's a longer planning horizon. That person might be more open to taking, you know, to making investment decisions into something that may have a little more oscillation to it. Like they might be putting money into an index fund. That was a very popular sort of strategy that I heard over the weekend. Um, if you are just wanting to save yourself 100 grand and you say, I can create this plan to hit that number in like 3 years, well, now you're talking about a much shorter planning horizon. And so, unfortunately, I have met people who have been working towards a business acquisition, and then they've got a lot of money invested in index funds or the stock market, and then something happens and there's a drop. And then they get skittish and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it now. I don't feel as confident. My investments have gone down. If I sell now, I'll lock in these losses, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm of the school of thought that if you are planning to use the money for something like buying a business and you're only a couple years out, you probably want to be more on the saving side of things versus the investing side of things. So, high yield savings account. If you have enough time, you may actually want to talk with Mark over at Lake Growth. Go to newbankingsolution.com and learn how you can use one of those high cash value dividend earning whole life policy accounts. But again, you might have to have a certain runway for it to make sense for you, right? But it is a guaranteed growth vehicle where you cannot lose money. So, these are the kinds of things that I would point people towards so that you can have certainty in your planning and certainty in your time frame and not have to worry about market losses, maybe getting you just before you're about to take money out to go to do a transaction. Um, Side hustles and extra income. A lot of people doing fire will get themselves involved in a side hustle. They'll look for ways that they can earn extra money so they can get to their fine number faster. You can do that too. So some of the examples that people often talk about are things like driving Uber, doing freelancing, flipping items, that kind of stuff, right? Here's my twist. I would say, yeah, get involved with a side hustle, but it would make most sense to me to get involved in a side hustle that actually allows you to develop your skills as an entrepreneur. So what does that mean? It means like you want something where you're going to have to learn how to do sales. You're going to have to talk to customers. You're going to have to learn how to manage yourself, your assets, maybe even other people. You want to sell something maybe that is subject to sales tax in your jurisdiction. So you have to learn how to collect the sales tax, how to file those returns, how to set that money aside and then remit it on time. All of these things are going to be valuable in your world as a business owner. So why not get some practice as you move forward? Learn how to use some bookkeeping software, like set your side hustle up on QuickBooks so you can actually record what's going on. Learn how to read your financial statements that get produced as a result of that. When you buy a business, you are going to have to know how to run a business. And so if you're going to get involved in a side hustle, take advantage of the opportunity to not only make money, but to actually develop yourself and your skills, right? That's what I would advise people how to do. Um, High savings equals more optionality. So let's think about it this way. If you do get into the position of some of these fire people, like if you're like saving half your income, for example, what's it going to do? It's going to give you a whole bunch of other freedoms on top of the monetary freedoms. So an example might be that you could shoot past your acquisition target number and you could then say, hey, maybe I'll take a leave of absence from work to do a full-time search. It's not typically something that I advise people to do, but you could have the freedom to do that if you had surplus money driven by the fact that you have reduced your cost of living so much. Don't forget, if you're saving 50% of your income, it means that if you decide to stop having an income, you're now living on a much lower figure, right? So you build yourself more runway. Um, you can walk away from deals that don't feel right, knowing that you become a stronger buyer every month. This is one of the messages I brought to the EconoMe conference, is that if you don't have to chase deals. Like, you can literally just do the deals that make sense, and if the deal doesn't work out, oh, well, what's happening? Well, every month I save more money, I become a stronger buyer. I'm either gonna have another shot at that deal in the future when the seller maybe becomes more reasonable on their price, or the other buyer that they went with, their deal falls apart or what have you, or you just find another opportunity down the road. You basically put yourself in a position where you have unlimited runway to do your search. You are always going to become a better and stronger buyer every day as you go forward because of the discipline that you've been employing in your own life. Um, you can self fund part of the purchase. So, you know, we often have conversations about the financing to buy a business. And a lot of the time it comes down to, getting the down payment and making sure the deal looks good for the bank so you can get a big bank loan and you can satisfy them, and you ask the seller to finance part of the deal. But if you start to have serious money in the bank, then you can start to throw, offers on the table, that were described in the book, Accidental Entrepreneur by James P. Shanahan. In that book, he talks about how he and his family holding company basically go out and they bought a whole string of businesses under similar terms, which were basically half down, half over time. So because they had cash, they were making offers where they were offering huge down payments. And so the seller was then having the confidence in them to finance the balance. Now we're talking about doing deals with no banks involved at all. And how great would it be to not have to satisfy a banker or go through all of the hoops that the bank is going to be putting in front of you to do a deal? These options start to make themselves available to you when you have money. And that's what we're talking about here, actually saving up a nest egg of money that can allow you to have the freedom and the power to do deals under your terms that make sense. My highlight is um, all about dry powder. The more cash available, the more resilient you become, and the more resilient you become after you've done the deal. A lot of people, again, put their last nickel into a deal and they become they're very much in a fragile scenario where if something happens in that business in the first couple of years when they still have a high degree of leverage on the balance sheet, Any small hiccup can happen, and all of a sudden you're not taking a salary for yourself. If you've got, a business that you've just bought, even with a bank loan, but you've got 100 grand sitting on the sidelines, if something happens, you've got options. You can bring more money into the business if you need to, or you can cut your salary and live off your savings while you help navigate the business back to a more profitable scenario. The whole point is money buys you time. Um, so other things that are an advantage from this whole fire movement idea. So if you adopt some of these fire, characteristics or attitudes in your own life, you become a better investor. A lot of the content created in the fire community is about education around learning about how to better understand investments and how to, understand, what fees you're paying if you buy certain investments and things like that. All of that stuff is going to make you better at business because it's going to open your mind to the kinds of things that you should be learning about and what you need to understand when you get involved in different business transactions. Um, People who get involved in fire essentially become more financially literate, and it's going to make you better at analyzing a business that you might want to buy one day. Um, my highlight is that, many buyers don't think about the money they put into a business with respect to returns. Like, they'll look at the cash flow and they'll get excited about the business and they'll put money in. But if you are learning about publicly traded investments and you're learning about other ways to invest your money, it will become very hard for you to do a deal where you don't have any kind of rate of return advantage over those other investments. And I've seen this happen before in deals where people are very astute financially with respect to investments that are out there. And people will literally say, why would I do this deal and earn this amount of return on my investment when I can just take the money and put it over there and earn this other rate of return? But given the risk differential, that's less risky and requires less effort. Why would I then do this deal? Right. And the people who are just entirely focused on small business stuff, they sometimes lack that perspective of comparison between the small business deal versus other places where they can put their money. And so this is another advantage that you get from taking a closer look at these fire ideas and becoming involved in, financial literacy, investing, literacy, etc. Um, Fire-minded people already think in terms of cash flow, with respect to their personal family cash flow in a big way. So they're very, very focused on understanding money coming in, money going out, where is it going, etc. And I think that this focus would make you a better business manager and business owner because you become very focused on what is necessary, what is not necessary, and looking very precisely at what's going on in the business at all times. Um, a lot of people, for example, will get looking at small businesses and they'll start looking at that seller's discretionary earnings number. And they all the time this happens. People confuse SDE with profit. SDE is in fact actually a budget. It represents the amount of money you have to cover certain key things that must be paid, and not all that money goes to you. And if you're, you know, don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the video that I produced a couple years ago called "Why SDE is Not Cash Flow." We'll put a link to it up here somewhere. Um, so, so practical tips here, right? So you set your target. How much money do I want to save? And you create a plan for how you're going to achieve that. You track this monthly or weekly, however you want to do it, to make sure that you stay on track. You have to have something in your life that keeps you focused on this. Uh, so, for example, if someone then invites you someplace or wants to go on a vacation that's expensive or whatever, you can keep yourself current to the fact of, hey, is doing this going to help me achieve this plan I have of hitting my certain savings goal? Not to say that going on vacation is a bad idea, but how serious are you? Like, what is your level of commitment? And I think it makes sense if you're especially if you're married or something, to actually, make these joint goals with your partner, and make sure that you're both focused on the same thing. Because if you are 100% focused towards saving money, toward this idea of building a nest egg towards business acquisition, and your partner is not, and they want to spend money in the here and now to enjoy life, then there's an opportunity there for some friction It's got to be out in the open. You both have to be on board with what is going to be your plan. And it's perfectly okay for the two of you to decide to have a less aggressive accumulation plan if, you also want to enjoy some of these other things in life. The point is, I think you need to have a plan because it's kind of scary to me how I've spoken to some people now several times over like 6 or 7 years, and there's still, no improvements been made, right? Like they get excited about businesses, they look at a business, they think it's a great business, they call me and get some advice, they want to talk with me on clarity or something, and then I talk about the deal with them, and they've got no resources, and then I say, "You need to get resources," and then 3 years later, they're excited again, they call me again, they still don't have any resources, right? It's like, "Okay, it's been 3 years. Have have you not actually taken action on this?" And so, what do you do? What do you say to a person like that, right? So, do you want to be that person, or do you want to be the person that sets goals, creates a plan for achieving the goal, and then executes the plan? Because, like, literally, if you're able to pull it together to actually get to the point where you have these savings and you're in a better position to do a deal, what it indicates is that you've got these characteristics like self-discipline and the ability to to create goals for yourself. All of those things are going to make you more successful as a business owner when you become that person that owns a business, because you're going to be able to apply those same principles in the operation of the business. Fire is not about instant gratification. It's about long-term freedom. And I think that successful business owners are the same way. You have to avoid the shiny object, instantaneous gratification stuff in order to create a long term foundation for the success of the business. What that often means in business acquisition, especially if you used a lot of leverage to buy the business, is it means you need to work on the balance sheet immediately, which means basically paying down debts or building the value of assets either through growth in sales or what have you. And you have to be smart about how you do it, because if you grow sales in the wrong kind of business, you can actually weaken yourself financially, especially if you suddenly need more capital for financing the growth of receivables, for example, right? And but tackling the balance sheet and making the balance sheet stronger is got to be one of the first things that you do, because just like having a high net worth gives a person resiliency in their personal life, having a strong equity position on a company balance sheet gives a business resiliency in its ability to weather financial storms, ups and downs, etc. Um, Exactly. So I was daydreaming a little bit about this. So fire practitioners, build up to their FI number, and then they've got this big nest egg. Maybe it's $1 million or $2 million, whatever it is, right? And then they have the problem of exiting. Like, how do they then start drawing money out of their investments in order to live off that over the long term? In the world of businesses, people who are actively running the business, they potentially can grow their cash flow more quickly. And not only do they then grow their cash flow so they have more money they could take out of the business to invest in a fire style investment strategy as well, but then they have the business, if it's successful and profitable, that they could in turn sell as well. And so this is why I think that business ownership, if paired with fire, could greatly accelerate somebody's ability to hit their FI number, uh, given that you have to have an interest in business and the aptitude, and you have to know how to run a business. That's why I didn't go to Cincinnati and tell everybody that they needed to buy a business. Really, you've got to be the right person. You have to be a person who is a business oriented person that has an interest in entrepreneurship, and that you're up to the challenge. But if you then pair it with some of these other characteristics, I think you could do really well. And it's kind of funny, right? Because before I got an invitation to this conference, I was aware of fire, but I never really gone into the content created by the people that are doing that kind of stuff online. But a lot of the books that I read as a young man, people talk about prominently in that community. A lot of the characteristics, attitudes, habits, etc., that people talk about over there are things that I developed myself as a younger person that have helped me achieve success and get to the point where I'm at today. And so I think it's kind of interesting how people will take things and kind of create a community around it with its own vernacular and everything. But really, we're talking about common sense stuff. living below your means, saving your money, investing it wisely, being keenly aware of the risks that are being involved as you're doing this stuff. Um, but I think that if you are already pursuing fire, for example, then you're halfway to owning a business, both with respect to skills and the required resources that you're going to need to do a deal. And if you are interested seriously in learning more about buying and selling, financing, and managing small businesses, as always, I would encourage you to get on my email list because I send out stuff every day about this stuff. And it's over at davidcbarnettlist.com is where the sign up form is. And when the video of my presentation in Cincinnati goes live on YouTube, I will be sure to share it with all the people that are on the email list as well. And with that, I'll say thank you very much. Let me know if you are a person that consumes fire content online and if you've applied some of these things in your own life. I'd love to know what you're doing. Just put some comments down below. And I hope that you found this useful. And if you are serious about the small business journey, especially people trying to buy their first business, you might want to, take some of these comments to heart and really get yourself focused. I meet a lot of people who get excited about small business acquisition because they've been told by some kind of guru online that it's a quick path to wealth and that there's all these boomer businesses that need to be changing hands, blah, blah, blah. And it draws a lot of people into this audience who are, thinking that what they have to do is do a deal with as much debt as possible. And all of a sudden they'll be driving a Lamborghini. And I've rarely seen people with those kinds of mindsets and attitudes actually be successful in something as complex as buying a business that requires a lot of personal discipline, thoughtfulness, planning, and careful moves. And with that, I'll say see you later, and we'll talk to y'all next time.
So, how can you learn more about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium sized businesses? Easy. Go over to my blog site, davidcbarnett.com, where you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients. You can learn more about my books and courses that I prepared for you. You can find out how to subscribe to my email list, the YouTube playlists, and more. There's literally hundreds of hours of content there, all for free, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Special thanks go to Mark Willis at Lake Growth Financial, today's video sponsor. Mark helps people better manage their personal and business finances through the Bank on Yourself insurance strategy. This is something I've done personally and I've seen others use it successfully for years. Go to newbankingsolution.com to find all the interviews I've done with Mark and learn more about the advantages of these programs. While there, sign up for a free consultation to learn what this solution might look like for you.